Welcome back to another episode of Raven Television. I'm here with my co-host, Chris Doyle, and today we are talking about the IB program here at our school.
The IB program, as you're going to learn, is an academic program that's offered in grade 11 and grade 12. Now, John, before we check in on the teachers to learn more about IB, how's the barbecue going? Pretty good by the looks of things.
Okay, so the IB program is an international, rigorous program of study that allows students to look at things from different perspectives and look at the world's problems and to think about how these different perspectives come together and that they can also be right. Okay, so the students who apply to IB and Foundations come from all over the Belleville catchment area. We have also had students who've moved into areas specifically for the program. We also have international students who come from other countries who are involved in the program, sometimes for 1 year, sometimes for 2. So really, anyone who is interested and meets the application process, they can take part in the IB and Foundations program here at Eastside. Okay, so some students will choose to do the full IB program, which involves taking 6 courses over 2 years, as well as completing theory of knowledge assignments and projects, which is how do we know what we know, and CAS, creativity, activity, and service requirements. So some students choose to go that route. That is an internationally recognized diploma, which would allow you to be considered for university programs outside of Canada. Some students choose to do the certificates program. The certificates program allows you to reach ahead in an area of interest. So for example, if you were interested in literature, you could take your IB literature course, and you might, when you go to university, get awarded a transfer credit so that you wouldn't have to necessarily take your first year English or communications course, depending on how well you score in that subject area. If you are doing full diploma, you can get up to a full year worth of university. I have some students right now in Quebec who go right into second year. Students here, if they score generally a 5 or better in their courses, will get transfer credits that they can apply towards their university degree. I've been the coordinator for, I believe, 3 years, and it is a pretty steep learning curve. Mainly because I work within 2 systems. I work within the IB system of doing things, and I also work within the Ontario system of doing things. And my job is to sort of liaise between the 2 and make the 2 work, as well as set up programming for students. I have an amazing opportunity to work with phenomenal students who are very dedicated to school and who are very creative and think out of the box and are very interested in making the world a better place. So I learn a lot from them regularly, and I also learn a lot through the learning opportunities that are provided by the IB for training. Okay, so our one thing you need to know first is that there are approximately 5,000 IB schools in 143 different countries. So every 5 years, an IB school goes through a review process, where we check to see how the program is being implemented here at our school. And our most recent review came back with 25 commendations on it and nothing that needed to be addressed. So that is a phenomenal achievement for a small program like ours, and that is located not in a city center. Generally, our students score approximately 13% higher than other IB schools, so that's pretty phenomenal as well. And we're considered to be an exemplar school for other IB schools, so that's also a pretty fantastic achievement.
Okay, so I'm in the higher level visual arts program, which is part of the IB program here at Eastside Secondary School.
So it's essentially an enriched academic program, where you do normal high school subjects, except they're all a bit harder. I guess that's the simplest definition.
Yeah. Okay, so there are a couple of requirements that are unique to the visual arts program for IB. So for example, you have to do a culminating exhibition like the one that's behind me. You also have to do a comparative study, which is sort of like a visual essay, and you also have to submit a process portfolio, which is basically a sketchbook of all your sketches and progress work. So there's just a couple of extra requirements that go into the evaluation of your work. Yeah. So actually the IB works in this way where students at different schools complete the assessments and then they're sent to the IB, which they then send to an examiner that's somewhere else in the world, and it's always different each time. So I have no idea who's going to assess my exhibition, and teachers here can also assess students from other areas' work. Yeah. Well, I've always been doing art ever since I was younger, and I just kept going with it. When I was younger, I used to take a lot of drawing, painting lessons to develop some technical skills, and then it's always just been something I liked doing, and I decided to continue on with that in high school. Well, I really admire like impressionist artists because I feel like they can convey a very unique type of emotion with their work rather than, and it's, well, I guess the movement itself is kind of a divergence from traditional painting, where it's more focused on realism and capturing exactly what the viewer sees, and focuses more on the atmosphere or the feeling of the scene or whatever is being painted, the subject. Yeah. Well, I think since art is a thing that is constantly evolving, today we see a lot of new styles and different ways of creating art. So it's become, the definition of art itself has become a lot more open and less restricted, I suppose. So I guess I'm learning to appreciate more contemporary art making styles, starting with Picasso and on to other more modern and abstract artists. Okay. So here I have some of the pieces that I've decided to include in my final exhibition. So yeah, they're not all my best work, I would say, but I've included them to show a sort of progression in my artistic development as well as personal development. So it begins with like more simple pieces like this. So this is like a typical observational drawing that most art students have to do. It's just sort of an exercise. It's oil pastel, and I had a lot of trouble kind of getting used to the medium because it's rather difficult to control and pretty imprecise compared to graphite. So I've applied some different stippling techniques to shade in the things. So this piece here I made last year, and it was kind of improvised, as is most of the things I make. Like, I don't really plan them out, even though I should, but so this one is more meant to sort of capture a city scene at night, raining, and then sort of focus on the expression of the central figure and kind of create that like deep and reflective sort of atmosphere. So this piece is probably the one I like the best that I made this year. This one took a really long time because it's all just colored pencil. It took me like a month to finish, I think, to come up with the composition and stuff like that and choose the color scheme. So this is intended to be like visually overwhelming, and I've included lots of repeating patterns, bright contrast in the colors, and so what to achieve this sort of effect.
Well, I kind of transferred to this school a little late. Everyone else was kind of in foundations where I wasn't, and it fit my schedule really well and what I wanted to do, and it was an advanced learning, so it gave me more opportunities to kind of like actually challenge myself to do things. And so it also taught me a lot of time management, which I didn't really have. I was kind of struggling to figure out what the right thing is, and now I know how to do it really well. So I can manage school, work, and volunteering stuff. So yeah. Yeah, so like you get prepared a lot for the future. Like you can definitely see that you'll be ready for like university when you go into it a lot better for first year at least. That way like you already know how far you have to be. And especially because I'm going into an English program, in the English class I'm in, we've already been told that we're doing really well and like we'll be ready for university. And we've been told by other students who have returned that they were fully ready for all their first year classes. So that makes us feel a lot more confident about going off to pursue whatever school we want to. So yeah. that definitely is one of them. And then you make a lot of like new friends, and you get to learn a lot more opinions, because everyone in the IB program is very opinionated, and they have facts to back up their like opinions. So it's very like, you have to have the facts to back up what you're saying. So you have to like think on your feet, and it teaches you that skill that's like really useful. So yeah. Well, you'll definitely want to learn time management very quickly. And you'll also probably want to be looking at the resources that some of the people like will provide you with, either old students who have done the program, such as I will be, as well as all my friends, they'll all be them, and like people who have gone off to university who are in the IB program, as well as the teachers around.
I've been teaching IB chemistry and a little bit of biology for the last 8 years. I've been a science teacher for about 15 years, but 8 of that has been with the IB program. In IB sciences, at this school we do chemistry and biology. The IB curriculum is set so that there's a certain number of hours that you have to cover for the 2 levels. There's a higher level, and the kids do an extended amount of science, and a standard level where they do a little bit less, but still quite a bit. And we get all of those topics covered, which are covered in the academic courses as well. The big thing that is different about the IB sciences are that we have a certain number of lab hours that we have to do with the students, and at the end of those lab hours the students are required to design their own lab based on what they have learned throughout the entire 2 years of IB science. Design the lab, perform the lab, and then write it up, and those labs are then sent somewhere in the world, depending on the year, to be marked externally outside of our school. And then whatever mark they get on that is added to a score that they get on standardized tests that they write for IB chemistry and biology. We've had some really interesting labs. The nice thing about those labs is that the students can pick anything in the curriculum that they've thought was interesting, and a lot of students will choose to pick something that is related to their experience in life. We've had lots of students do engineering, we've had lots of students do life sciences, I've had some polymer chemists go through that program. There are lots and lots of students have gone into science. I think some of the good part about some of that IB science is it's very, very broad. We do a lot of topics that maybe aren't covered in the Ontario courses, so the students get to see a huge range of chemistry and biology. And the one thing that always does come back to us is that the students really do well in first and second year sciences, because they've covered a lot of it and really had to think about how to set up labs and really figured out how science works due to their lab experience here.
Well guys, it looks like that's the end of our show. See you next month. It's time to eat.